Good morning. Welcome to our Cliff Quarantine Reset Devotional Series, Day 7. We've been talking about how to live our lives as followers of Jesus and the difficulty that can present sometimes. And so we've been thinking about the fall and sin entering the world that we read about all the way back in Genesis 3, and how that's totally messed up and screwed up the world that we live in and made our lives extremely difficult. And so as we look at this problem that is in the world and in our hearts, we start to think about what hope there is and what hope there can be. But the Bible, as we talked about yesterday, is really God's story about how He has planned to solve that problem and offer humanity the chance of restoration. And so we know that restoration, that redemption, it comes through Jesus Christ and Jesus Christ alone. As He dies on the cross, He takes the penalty of our sin, and as He is resurrected, raised in new life, then when we accept that gift that He has offered us, then we can have new life in Him as well. And so we think about that as a reset, as a start over, as an opportunity to have a new identity in Jesus. And so as we start to think about that new identity that begins with a reset faith, it starts to lead to a transformed life. It starts to lead to changes in life. And some of them are small and some of them are big. So that's what we're thinking about. We are thinking about a reset faith that leads to a reset life, a transformed life. So we've been looking at the book of Ecclesiastes, and the teacher in the book, he's speaking or writing, and he talks about how he sees how screwed up the world is, and he feels like there's no hope. He looks around, he sees how life can be so repetitive, how nature just repeats itself day in and day out, and how it all feels meaningless. So the teacher, just like many of us, has a longing to find what truth is and where meaning and fulfillment and satisfaction can really be found to make this life have purpose. And so the teacher, he's on a mission to solve this answer. So the first thing he looks at, as we talked about yesterday, was wisdom, or studying, or knowledge, academics. And he finds that in the end, they don't really offer any answers, and they don't solve life's problem, and it doesn't really fulfill. And any satisfaction that it does offer is only temporary. And that's a theme that we're going to continue to find in the book of Ecclesiastes. So this morning, you're going to read about the teacher's second, and really I see two things that he looks at in this morning's passage to find answers, to find meaning in. So in a moment, you're going to pause the video, you're going to read the next passage in Ecclesiastes, and you're going to answer the questions in your journal. Welcome back. So this morning we read about the teacher's pursuit after learning that human philosophy and wisdom doesn't provide the fulfillment in life that he's seeking after. He turns to pleasure, worldly pleasure. And I also think another idol there is building up of life. He talks about planting vineyards and creating. And so I really see him pursuing pleasure, but also the creation of designing and building and expressing creativity in life. And he finds that doesn't give life meaning either. So when you look at all those things that you wrote down in your journal, if you were to try to find meaning in those things, they would come up short as well. And the pursuit of pleasure is a pretty popular one in our society, right? So we live here on the corner of Main and Maple, and when college is in session, you hear lots on Friday and Saturday nights, you hear a lot of college students late at night coming back from the bars or heading out to the bars, seeking some type of pleasure and fulfillment, just to escape for an evening and get their mind off college and studying and homework and all that stuff. And another thing I do is kind of like a small part-time job I do every once in a while is Uber. And I'll do it, I've done it usually on Friday nights. And there's been a number of occasions where you hear people in the back of the car talking about how pointless and meaningless it all is. They go through school 5 days a week, and then Friday night and Saturday night they try to forget the week and they go out and party and try to escape it, and then go back to Monday, and it's just this repetitive waste, and it doesn't provide any fulfillment or satisfaction. And even though deep down we know that, we're still often trying to seek pleasure to bring ourselves fulfillment, and it doesn't satisfy. None of these things satisfy. Jesus writes in Mark 8:36, he says, "What good is it for someone to gain the whole world yet forfeit his soul?" The answer to the teacher's questions of the meaning of life and truth, and to our questions of fulfillment and meaning, are not found in drugs and partying and sex. And these things might provide pleasure, and they might provide some satisfaction, and maybe even a little bit of fulfillment, but it's all so temporary, and it doesn't last. So my encouragement to you is to ask Jesus to help you keep your eyes fixed on what really matters. The point of life is not just to have a good time, though we will have good times. Live today for what really matters. In a moment, before you turn off the video, I just encourage you to follow the final instructions of this morning's Devo, and I encourage you to live today for Jesus and not try to find fulfillment in the pleasures that life offers. Have a good day.